Let's start with a simple question. Do you know that the education system under which you, I, and almost all of us grew up, the familiar 10 plus 2 structure, is no longer the same? A policy that stood for 35 years has been rewritten with a single stroke of a pen. In 2020, the Government of India introduced the National Education Policy, NEP 2020, the first education policy of the 21st century. And its goal is by no means small. Its objective is to bring Indian education to par with the world's best education systems by the year 2040. But the real question is, will this truly change your child's future? Or is it just another document filled with grand promises on paper? Today we will look for that exact answer in simple language without any unnecessary complications.
In this video, I will take you through 6 major stages. Why this policy was needed, the new school structure, the transformation of examinations, the debate over language and mother tongue, the changes in colleges and universities, and finally, how much of this is being followed in West Bengal and how much is not. So stay with me till the end. Let us start with a very basic question. What was the problem with our old education system? The problem was simple. We were trained to memorize, not to understand. Memorize everything the night before the exam, write it down the next day, and then forget most of it immediately after the exam. This culture of rote learning continued for generation after generation, but the world has changed. Today, artificial intelligence, AI, can already do many tasks that human beings once did. Any work that depends only on memorization can now be done by a machine. So what should our children really learn? The policy gives a clear answer. Education should not only teach what to learn, it should teach how to learn. It should teach children to think, to question, to solve problems, and to create something new. And here the policy also looks back with pride at ancient India. Takshashila, Nalanda, Vikramashila, these were not ordinary institutions. Students from many parts of the world came to these centers of learning thousands of years ago. Mathematics, medicine, philosophy, art, everything was studied together. The policy says that this spirit of broad, multidisciplinary learning must return again. Now let us come to the biggest change in school education. What did the old 10 plus 2 structure mean? Formal schooling usually began at the age of 6 from class 1. But the 3 or 4 years before that, the years when a child's brain develops most rapidly, remained largely outside the formal education system. Now listen to one fact that may surprise you. About 85% of a child's brain development happens before the age of 6. And yet, for years, we neglected this most important stage. That is why the new policy brings education into focus from the age of 3. So what are the 4 stages? First, the foundational stage, 5 years from age 3 to age 8. This includes 3 years of Anganwadi or preschool and classes 1 and 2. Here, learning happens through play, songs, stories, pictures, colors, and activity. Second, the preparatory stage, classes 3 to 5. Third, the middle stage, classes 6 to 8. And fourth, the secondary stage, classes 9 to 12, 4 years together. But what does learning through play really mean? It means that a child between 3 and 8 should not be forced to sit rigidly on a chair and memorize textbooks. Instead, letters, numbers, colors, shapes, rhythm, imagination, and language should enter the child's mind through games, puzzles, drawing, storytelling, and joyful activities. Now let me give you a number that shook the country. Government surveys showed that more than 5 crore children were enrolled in primary school, yet many of them could not read properly or do simple addition and subtraction. Think about that. 5 crore children. To address this crisis, the policy sets one clear target. By class 3, every child must be able to read, understand, and do basic arithmetic. This is called Foundational Literacy and Numeracy, or FLN. The message is very clear. If this foundation is weak, the rest of education becomes meaningless. But the real revolution is in examinations. We all know the fear of board exams. The pressure, the anxiety, the coaching, the feeling that one exam will decide everything. The policy says examinations will remain, but the fear of one exam decides all must reduce. An exam should measure how much a student has understood, not how much the student has memorized. And assessment itself is changing. The old marks-based report card is being replaced by a broader, 360-degree holistic progress card. It will not only show exam marks, it will also reflect self-assessment, peer assessment, projects, creativity, skills, and overall development. And this larger assessment system will be guided by a national body called PARAC. Now comes a topic that created discussion across the country: language. The policy says that at least up to Class 5, and preferably up to Class 8 or beyond, children should be taught in their mother tongue, home language, or local language. Why? Because research and experience both show that a child understands complex ideas faster and more deeply in the language of the home, the language of the mother. But here we must clear one major misunderstanding. The policy does not say that English cannot be learned. It also does not say that Hindi will be imposed on any state. Instead, it says that the three-language formula will remain flexible, and no language will be forced upon anyone. Among the three languages, at least two should be Indian languages. The rest will depend on the student, the school, and the state. The policy also gives importance to classical and literary languages: Sanskrit, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Odia, and others, as well as Pali, Prakrit, and Persian. Now let us move from school to college. One of the most interesting changes is the 4-year undergraduate course, along with multiple entry and multiple exit options. What does that mean? Suppose a student studies for 1 year and then has to stop for some reason. That student can still receive a certificate. After 2 years, a diploma. After 3 years, a degree. And after 4 years, a degree with research. In other words, the student's learning will not be wasted. To store these credits, the policy introduces the Academic Bank of Credit, like a digital bank where the credits of every course can be deposited. And the MPhil degree? It has been discontinued. But another very important social change is vocational education, education through hands-on work. Here is a striking comparison. In Germany, about 75% of young people receive vocational education. In South Korea, the number is about 96%. In India, it has been less than 5%. Why? Because our society often thinks that working with one's hands is inferior work. The policy wants to break that mindset. So from Class 6 onward, children will be introduced to skills like carpentry, electrical work, gardening, pottery, and other practical crafts. There will also be a 10-day bagless period, during which students can learn from local artisans and workers. The purpose is simple: to teach dignity of labor. Colleges are also changing. Instead of many small, single-stream colleges, the policy imagines larger, multidisciplinary universities where the walls between science, arts, commerce, and vocational learning gradually break down. The target is to increase the gross enrollment ratio in higher education from 26% to 50% by 2035. And to strengthen research, the policy proposes a national research foundation. Now comes the most important question for us. What is happening in West Bengal? Here we must remember one important point. Education is on the concurrent list. That means both the union government and the state government have roles and powers. So, in 2023, the government of West Bengal released its own state education policy. The biggest difference is in the school structure. The National Education Policy proposes the 5+3+3+4 structure, but West Bengal has not accepted it fully. The state has retained its own 5+4+2+2 structure. And the Class 10 board examination, which the national policy wants to reduce in pressure, continues in West Bengal. The state's argument is that for students from rural and semi-urban areas, the Madhyamik examination remains an important milestone. But there are also many areas of agreement. West Bengal also supports 100% enrollment by 2030, foundational literacy, vocational education, and the 4-year undergraduate course in higher education, which has already been introduced in the state from 2023. The state policy also emphasizes the Bengali language and recommends Bengali as a subject even in schools where the medium of instruction is different. So, in simple words, West Bengal has accepted many useful parts of the national policy, but has shaped them according to its own social and educational reality. In 2020, the policy said that to reduce the fear of board examinations, students should get a chance to appear twice in a year, once for the main examination and once again to improve their marks. At that time, many people thought this would remain only a promise on paper. So, what is the final message? Is the National Education Policy 2020 perfect? No. There are debates about implementation. There are differences between states. The challenges are huge. But it is still a bold dream, a journey from rote memorization toward understanding, from fear toward joyful learning, from narrow streams toward broader possibilities. And whether this journey succeeds or fails will depend not only on governments, but also on teachers, parents, schools, colleges, and on all of us. Now it is your turn. What do you think? Share your opinion in the comments. And if you want a detailed video on West Bengal's State Education Policy 2023, keep the channel subscribed. We will meet again in the next video.